Balding here today. Daniel and Anthony are working on other projects currently. I'm sitting here today with Raj Mody. Raj is in Jacksonville, Florida, and is a longtime investor, lender, developer, landlord, very, very multifaceted, multi-talented. So I give you Raj Mody, everybody. You there, Raj?
Yeah, I'm here. How you doing?
Yeah. Done you? Did you hear the intro, or are you?
I heard the intro. I think the internet cut out a little bit.
Okay.
So,
yep.
anyways, thank
It
you.
happens.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you. Nice to be here. Thank you, Frank.
Alrighty. So, Raj, tell us a little bit about yourself. I've known you for what is it now? About 5-6 years, and you've never been a very public person. What's brought you out to the podcast today? Tell the world a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I've been in real estate pretty much my whole life, and have enjoyed the whole industry. Been really busy the last decade or more than a decade doing deals. Like you said, whether buying properties, being a landlord, commercial, residential, doing the joint venture, financing. So, my plate was always full. I didn't really have a huge need to get out there and do a ton of marketing or kind of putting myself out there. But, we're in a different era now with technology, with the changing market. And I feel it's a really good time for me to be out there, obviously always about doing deals, but I think more importantly, sharing my knowledge and information with other people and helping them. I have been doing it for a while, but now maybe I could just do it in a more organized manner that, benefits others and of course myself as well, and just create win-win opportunities, which has been my motto since day one.
So when was day one?
Well, day one was pretty early. I would say the day I got my driver license, 16 years old. So that's back in the 90s. It probably started even before then, but that's the reason why that time and that era sticks out to me is as soon as I got my driver license, I was able to be more flexible, whether it was going to properties, whether it was meeting people in real estate. My father, was a landlord, and it wasn't a large operation, but one of the first things I had to do was again just go out and meet contractors and look at properties. And we had a commercial building, so if it required going to the courthouse to do paperwork over there for any reason. So the day I got my driver's license, I was of course having fun like any 16-year-old would do, but I was also hitting the road and hitting the pavement with just any kind of work. And then the story from that time to now is pretty lengthy, so I'll not go in too much detail, but a lot of different tribulations. Right around that time was actually around the dot-com. I was still in school, but fast forward to the last recession, the Great Recession in 08, 09. I mean, that's really where I got my hands dirty, and ever since then, just been continuously evolving and just doing more deals in different facets.
Okay, and you mentioned your father was a landlord, so you learned real. You grew up you're in the family business essentially. You grew up learning this.
Grew up learning it, which is good because it's kind of ingrained in me. But I definitely have taken it to whole another level at a really young age. The entrepreneurial spirit of venturing out to different cities, taking on new asset classes, taking on different styles. I mean, it's just totally evolved. So, the best way that describes me is a little bit is old school with a little bit of new school, and I think that's one of the huge advantages I have. I remember doing business at a very young age. Forget about social media. I mean, the internet even wasn't that popular. I mean, I'm talking about again the 90s. internet was new, and if it was new, email was new. If it wasn't Hotmail, it was, just a bare bone thing. So I mean, I remember doing business in that environment. I remember doing business in the environment where technology became a little bit more useful and common. And then here we are today where it's everything. I mean, I remember fax machines. And so again, the good part is I just remember doing a lot of business the old fashioned way, but I understand today, there's so much more efficiencies with technology, kind of like what we're doing right now, having this podcast and having this Zoom. So there's a lot of better ways to do it, but I think I can mix the old school with the new school. And I think that's what really is a huge advantage for me and for whoever I work with.
Most definitely, most definitely. I recall when I met you, I think it was at a networking event, but your office at that point in time was an apartment complex you and your father owned, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, that's true. And that just goes back to that sentiment of old school. So just to touch base on that, it was a 200 unit apartment complex, not small by any means, but required a ton of hands-on management and operations. It was a complete renovation. I mean, again, I could write books on books just about that particular venture. But since you commented on the office, I mean, that's what it took. It took being there every single day, not behind spreadsheets and not really people giving me it just required being hands-on on site all the time to make sure that venture was successful. And it turned out it was, but again, it took a lot of time and energy and hard work. So I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, I have definitely evolved. And not just one quick example. Again, there's many of them of my experience over the last couple of decades and how I'm able to share that with people, because that experience goes a long way. And again, it's on so many different asset classes, so many different sizes of properties. And but yeah, our office was there, and we made sure it was a successful venture among many other ventures we were working on, but that was the biggest. And yeah, I've evolved since then, and overall, great experience.
Most definitely. And if I recall correctly, you and your father also own the office building that you're in now, correct?
Yeah, so we got an office building right now that we bought about 7-8 years ago. It was 100% vacant. It was a bank-owned property. Quick story on that. I approached the bank a year before we bought it, saying I'd like to buy it for XYZ price, and here are my terms, and they were very favorable. And it took them about 1.5 years to come back around and sell it to me at almost the same price. They had it under contract 5 or 6 times. The buyers couldn't perform, and bought it, and I'm very happy here, very grateful. But yeah, that's the office building we're in at the moment. Have purchased shopping centers. When it comes to residential, pretty much every kind, from high end to medium to low, to duplexes, fourplexes, condominiums. I mean, there's very few asset classes I haven't been involved in.
In what asset classes specifically are you looking for deals in on a regular basis right now?
Yeah, so right now, well, I'll start off with a few that I'm not. I'm not really looking to get back into the multifamily, although I understand that business very well. I just think it's too competitive and too saturated right now.
The margins are too tight right now.
Margins are very tight.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it requires, that's a perfect example of an asset class that I think, newcomers think is very, I don't know what the word, appealing or attractive to get into, because it sounds great. Like, oh, I own an apartment building or apartment complex and things like that. But deep down, it requires to make good money on it. It requires a lot of hands-on. It's a huge learning curve. So I'm not really looking to get back into that. Office, I'm not crazy about either because, we just went through the pandemic and, this whole work from home, this whole Zoom and technology, and that puts a little bit downer on that. I'm not saying I wouldn't get into that, but I'm not as excited about that. The one area I would say I'm a little bit more excited about is retail, shopping centers, mini storage. Those couple of assets I'm more interested in.
Those are definitely some positive asset classes that I've been targeting both by education and marketing myself. So definitely like that. Now I understand you're looking to partner with people. Is that part of the, coming out and getting a little bit more public now?
Yeah, I mean,
what you're looking to do.
Sure. Yeah, on that topic, it's not necessarily I'm looking to partner. I kind of feel, I mean, the answer is yes, but I also feel it's kind of the other way around. I think with with the capital that we have, and with the knowledge base, and with the infrastructure I have, I just see it as a win-win. So in the last couple of years, that's what I've focused a lot on, is more of the partnership, joint venture, private lending. And one of the reasons for that is because I, again, have an extensive amount of knowledge, but I had to make a decision whether to keep scaling my business, hiring more people, and taking on more and more projects that require a lot of day-to-day staying on top and being on the ball with all those projects. And I just knew I'd burn myself out if I kept doing it. So the whole idea about partnering, and it's a very loose word, so I don't want to, go too broad or too specific, but again, it can come in many different forms. But the idea is everybody brings something to the table. And again, with capital and with knowledge and strategy, one thing I didn't mention yet is I actually have my MBA in real estate and finance from a very top tier school, and I'm very proud of it. But what it is when it comes from a strategy and execution standpoint, I feel I have a lot of knowledge and experience to bring to the table on top of the capital. But I understand that a lot of these deals require hands-on management, or sometimes even just hands-on work. And so that's a great opportunity for younger, smaller, investors. They don't necessarily got to be brand new. It's just that they could be, they could have done a couple of deals and want to take it to the next level. That's that kind of partnership that works well, where the other party is getting they're getting my knowledge and expertise and all that. And in my case, like I said, I could do way more projects doing it that way than trying to take on everything for myself. And at the very end of each project, the goal would be, of course, for everybody to make money. And the other thing would be for that investor or that partner, if that's what we want to call it, to be a little bit wiser and a little bit more experienced out of it as well.
Yeah, any worthwhile deal has to be, it's best when it's a win-win for everybody. Too many one-sided deals, and you lose the ability to get people to deal with you for sure.
Yeah, so, I think that win-win
that
motto
includes the sellers.
Yeah, absolutely. That win-win motto to me has to apply in almost every facet of business. It could even be a landlord-tenant. It could be a contractor, property owner. I mean, it extends further than just sometimes investor and investor, or lender and borrower, or something like that. I just feel it really has to apply in every facet of business, and that should always be the motto.
This show is sponsored by HiveMind CRM. It is more than just a CRM. It is a real estate and business mastermind that comes with an all-in-one CRM. You can have unlimited websites and users. You can call, text, RVM, and email all in one user interface. And you can set up custom automations for any type and multiple businesses. 65% of companies start using a CRM system within the first 5 years of business. Once implemented, the HiveMind will save you on marketing, give you more time, and make more money. One of our users had his first $100,000 month using our system in June. We want to see you automate and accelerate your business. Text us at 210-972-1842 for future meetings, and of course to get our $1 course on how to make more than 6 figures on one land deal. You can schedule your free demo today at hivemindcrm.io.
So I know you also like to, I know you and your father both, prefer to be able to hold. So, are you also still specifically targeting for purchase, or has the current pricing of the economy kind of tempered y'all a little bit on that, waiting for better deals to come along?
That's a good question, because, market cycles and the condition of the market is, one of the most important things. Time, a saying that I like to always keep in the back of my mind. It's not an absolute, but, the old saying in real estate is location, 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 which is, of course, extremely important. I also like to combine that with timing. And I give a very interesting example. I say, if an investor bought a property at the worst time, let's call it 07, 08, 15 years ago, and it was in the best location, not even that location can save you because your timing was wrong. And if, in 2012 and 13, when the market was just starting to, accelerate from the last downturn, then, the investor could have bought something in the worst location and still made money. So, I say that just to kind of emphasize on your question and comment about, market cycles and timings is very important. So to answer that, yeah, I've stayed a little bit away from buying the last couple of years. We came out of this pandemic stimulus market that I think was highly, not say artificial, but there was a lot of not normal things going on, and so I just didn't feel like playing in that arena. So that's where, again, my joint venture partnership, borrower lender type of deals really accelerated during that time, because it was just the right timing for it. Going back to buying properties myself, I'm always kind of on the hunt, but yeah, I would agree with that statement that, there might be a benefit in waiting a little bit. I'm not really waiting, but I'm not chasing either. I think 2023 is going to be a challenging year for markets, for interest rates, for the, what the Fed and their plan is. And so, it's a tough time for certain people, but it's also a huge opportunity, an opportunistic time.
Definitely.
Yeah, in 23 and going into 24. And it's not the same, but it reminds me a little bit of 06, 7, 8, getting out of an environment that was very, very crazy, heavily buyers, out the wazoo. And it's just different. It's just a different environment, but it replicates a lot of those things. And I remember that time like it was yesterday. I tell people all the time, 08 is like ingrained in my head. If, someone says, oh, that was 15 years ago, it feels like yesterday to me, because it was a really, really unique time, from all different facets, personally and professionally. And I just feel that, it won't be the exact way, but there's a lot of similarities in it. And I think it pays to be patient sometimes. And to go back to your comment about, holding properties long-term, that, that's also another patient, you use that word patient. And that's another thing. I still own properties that we bought in the last recession, let's call it 08, 9, 10. And throughout that whole cycle, never sold. Now I sold some, but I'm willing to be as patient as possible. And the good part about, investors or people who get into real estate and stay in it long term is you understand those cycles a lot more. People who have only been in real estate in the last decade or smaller amounts of time frame haven't seen a down market. They've only seen things go on the up and up. And again, going back to it, I've seen both sides. And one of the things is being patient and holding on to properties is interesting, because as investors own more and more properties, you could pick and choose. So what I've done, for example, is sold some, kept others. And sometimes there's some properties you don't want to sell. Sometimes there's properties you want to sell and replace with others. Some asset classes you want to get out of, like I mentioned, multifamily, and you're not that keen on getting back into for the moment. Now that could change. So again, it's that strategy and it's that sort of long-term thinking that I bring to the table, because I could analyze any kind of deal in the moment, but I can also have that 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, 20 year time horizon, in the back of my mind as well. And a lot of it over time is just putting so many pieces of the puzzle together to be able to make very, strategic and efficient decisions.
Strategic, there's one of the key words. So is it just pricing currently that's souring you on the multifamily market, or I recall you said it was kind of resource intensive as far as your time also. Yeah. You took over and you moved your business into the office there on site, and there was always, I recall going over there many times, and there was always something going on with the property, just as much as there was your other business ventures. So True. Is it just the finance right now, or is it just maybe it's not a task you want to take on again, or
it's a little bit of both.
To take on from a different manner, maybe from a different manner?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit of both. And I think as real estate entrepreneurs and as business people, you evolve. I mean, you have to. And so, but you also evolve as a person. And I think it's a combination of those two. It's a combination of what you just said, Frank, the business environment, and also from a personal standpoint. And that's the thing that people realize over time too, is that certain things could be good for one person or one type of investor, and then they may not be for the other. So it goes back to evolving and cycles, and everybody has to kind of make their own decision and own call. And that's another thing that I've helped a lot of people over the last couple of years is, again, I've sort of done it indirectly. I've mentored and advised and strategically helped so many people over the last couple of years. And when you ask me the very first question about why am I kind of coming out right now and being more vocal and just sort of putting myself out there, it's because I've almost really been doing it for over the decade, but I think it really accelerated over the last couple of years. And now I'm like, okay, there's a better way I can do this. There's a more organized way and to help people more in a more structured manner than what I was doing sometimes before, is having these 2 or 3 hour conversations with people in my office, or I would be going to their property or their project and spending 2-3 hours at a time, telling them about all different options they have and different ways of doing what they want to do. And so it's like I've been doing it. I just think there's a better way I can do it to help more people on the masses. And But yeah, that's kind of been how I've evolved over the last couple of years.
How many people are, and this kind of fits into the next question, how many people are on your team? And I know from talking to you a couple of times, you prefer to have eyes on each property that both that you purchase. Obviously, you prefer to have eyes on and as much information about it, but also even properties that you lend on. You don't just trust someone to go take some photos. You like to go get eyes on. Does that also kind of limit you, or have you found that that's saving you in the long run, potentially?
Well, I think it goes back to what
I guess might be a better word.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's a great question. I think what happens is it goes back to what I just said a minute ago. It's like to each their own. I mean, there's no exact way to do one or two things, but yeah, that'll be an adjustment. I've always taken pride on looking at properties, seeing people at the properties, at my office. Been a very one-to-one type of person to give a very, personalized service. Real estate. The other thing is, real estate is a very tangible, real. That's why it's called real estate. It's a very real product. It's not like buying a stock. It's not like buying crypto. It's not like buying bonds, which is a piece of paper. And again, I just go back to it. My experience is in doing things both ways. Of course, I can't just live on the field. I can't just hop in my car and go to a property every single time something happens. Of course, I make decisions also based on analysis, from every level. But yeah, I mean, that, and I think that's a whole interview podcast thing in its own. But the short summary of it is, investors are people who think, and I know this was very big in the pandemic because, of course, a lot of people were at home and not getting on planes or not going to see people, etc. A big myth, I think, is to think you could do real estate always just sitting behind a computer or doing analysis on an Excel or spreadsheet and just photos. I mean, you can do it, of course, but I don't know. I'm a big believer of seeing the property with my own eyes, touching it, smelling it, feeling it. And I have so many stories on that as well. I mean, when I say something like smelling it, I mean, I can recount fire burned properties, that smell of smoke. I'm just giving an example, but, and then when you go back to touching, is it brick? Is it concrete? Is it wood? Is there termites? It goes on. And so, you can almost apply all the senses, maybe not taste. I mean, I don't think anyone's tasting a property, but, it's almost just from like touching, seeing, hearing, feeling. I mean, it's a real product. And, it goes back to what I said a minute ago, why there's an old school and new school mix to things. I've experienced the old school way, which is, again, just being at the property, constantly, just sort of being hands-on, being right there. And then again, I understand the other side of the coin too. You have to be able to work off of your computer, your phone. You have to have, team members, whether they're your direct employees, whether they're contractors. That trust, that relationship has to be there as well. So there's no right or wrong answer. I just think that in the last couple of years, it's gotten a lot more in the direction of, I could do this sitting in my chair, sitting in my computer, and I think that limits yourself in that angle. But again, just like it limits, if you say, well, I can't make this decision on the phone, I got to go drive to the property to decide, am I going to put a $50 toilet or $100? I mean, yeah, you have to make those decisions without having to go to the property. But that just goes back to experience and knowledge and how you want to do things, because I think you got to be able to do it both ways.
Definitely. Most definitely. So I know you gave us currently just an email address. I know you're working on a site to be able to present, as a way for people to get in touch with you and such like that. I know they can reach you at raj@mody.com, which is showing on the screen right now. By the time this episode comes out, we will, I know you said you'll have a domain for us, the site up and ready that we can add to the show notes so that everybody can reach out to you that way. Explain maybe the part, maybe someone brings you a deal, what do you prefer? What do you expect from them to be able to properly vet a deal? I guess, might be a good way to say it. Is it a deal? Is it not a deal, etc.? What information are you going to want from them?
The show is sponsored by The List Guys. Do you need more leads in your local or virtual market? 1 in 10 small businesses don't invest in any kind of marketing. The List Guys have over 35 plus list types to choose from, and you can mix and match any list or criteria. We also use the skip trace list and provide up to 7 numbers and email addresses. Every list you purchase will be scrubbed against previous purchases. The List Guys are here to save you time. Contact the List Guys today at www.1listguys.com. That's www.1listguys.com.
Well, I mean, that's a very broad question, but important question nonetheless. Again, it has to be a case by case. And, I just expect if somebody brings me a deal for whatever reason, my first golden rule is this, and it goes back to that win-win. Everybody has to make money. And I always say, if the deal is good enough, everybody who's involved in that deal can make money and do well, and they should do well. And that's the goal, and that's the expectation. If the deal is not good, if the margins are too tight, if the analysis says that, oh yeah, we could make money, but only if these several things happen in sequence, then, I like to tell people sometimes you may want to rethink that deal. And another quick side note on that before I get back to that original question. I mean, that's another huge thing that I've done over the course of my career, but especially in the last couple of years, is I have actually talked people out of buying deals. And the first way I did that would say, hey, look, the deal you just presented to me doesn't make sense to me. I don't want to be a part of it. But then after I tell them that, I spend time with them just because I truly care about whoever I'm dealing with at any level, whether they're a colleague, they're a friend, or it could be just someone I never even met before. But I believe in karma, and I believe in the humanitarian, good way of just working with people, which is, I've told people, I think you bet, if I'm not involved in this deal, or whether I'm involved or not, you want to reanalyze this thing, because I don't see how you can make money off of it. And I don't like to see people get the wrong end of the stick. And so I've actually talked a lot of people throughout the years, even if it had nothing to do with me, out of deals, or at the very least, I have told them why they should think twice or sleep on it before they really commit to it. But to go back, because again, I don't want to see that they lose money if I can help them. But to go back to it, that's what it is. I mean, to me, the investor has to do a first round of due diligence themselves. They can't just present a deal to me and expect me to do all the due diligence. I mean, they have to have a clear idea of what they're doing first. Now, if they're not experienced enough, then that's a whole other aspect. But they have to kind of vet the deal first, as if they're putting all of their own money into it. Because that's another thing I learned over the years too, is a huge difference between people call OPM. If it's other people's money, they'll be like, oh, it's a wonderful deal. And then if it's their own money, then they're thinking about it 5, 6, 7 times over and over again. So I always tell
much
people,
more critical.
much more critical, exactly. And it's human nature. We're all like that. So I like to say that person has to really think hard about if it's 100% of their own money. They got to think, how good of a deal is this, and how do they expect to make money? And if they do the proper analysis, then they present the deal to me, then at least we can have a very educational and strategic conversation about it. And I like to put things in rounds. I mean, no one's going to understand a specific deal right from the very beginning. And same time, you have to go through different rounds and sequences. And that's one of I have somewhat, not say perfected, but I've somewhat massaged that whole process over the years, which I'd be happy to share with people throughout time. But I can vet deals very quickly. And so again, it just goes back to understanding the key metrics of that particular deal, how that investor plans to make money, how we all expect to make money. And then there's the risk factor, well, nobody wants to, cross the Sahara for a glass of water. So if the deal can make money, but it requires so much risk and so much time and all that stuff, then I'm the first to tell that person, you may want to rethink this thing. But I think it just comes back to understanding the key metrics, understanding the deal, itself, could be commercial, could be residential. And that's why I don't want to go too specific. I mean, I don't even know what deal we're talking about, but just understanding those key points.
Yeah. I know, if I recall correctly, I know you were running short on time. I think you had a meeting at 12:30 our time, and we're Eastern time right now as we record this on Thursday afternoon. Really quickly, what are you reading right now? What book are you reading, or what author do you prefer, or what type of books?
So
we always ask this question.
good question. And again, just from the sheer nature of my educational credentials, like I have a bachelor's degree in international business, and I have an MBA in real estate finance. So I take education very seriously, both from a formal and informal. But I take the real world knowledge, and that's another thing. Like I try to always balance those two, street knowledge and book knowledge. So to answer that question on books, I don't have a specific book or author I can comment on. Maybe the next time we talk, I'll have more specifics. But I will say I do enjoy anytime reading or listening to a podcast, for example, that is about real estate, business, finance. Could be about motivation. Could be about just I like to call the intangibles. Could be about those things that make people successful, whether they're in real estate or not. And so I can't give you a specific name, but there are several I do in general like to listen to. It's just, education is one of those things where, it could be enlightening for someone and maybe not for someone else for whatever reason. So I just say people should always look at continuously educating themselves. I will say a completely non-real estate, non-business topic. I'm really into playing tennis right now. I enjoy it. And so, where I come from, a real estate, I like to consider myself an expert or an absolute professional in real estate and finance. But in tennis, I'm a newbie, but I enjoy playing. And so it's like I can wear my expert hat in one category, and I could wear my student hat in another category. And that's why I bring that up to you. So on anything that somebody wants to learn more about, just keep reading, keep listening, keep educating yourself. But whether it's real estate or tennis, you have to combine the book knowledge with the street. So somebody, in my opinion, can only listen to only so many podcasts, read so many books, or if I take the tennis example, can only watch so many YouTube videos. At some point, you got to get out there. At some point, you got to do it yourself, and it's just that combination of both. But by all means, everybody should always look at trying to make themselves better and more educated in any topic. And
Definitely. And knowing that you're a fan of tennis and a diehard student of tennis, I was going to bring that up, and you already hit it. And YouTube University is a great way to learn just about anything, but always do broad research in my experience, because there's just as many people on YouTube presenting bad information as there are people presenting positive, or not so much positive, but the correct information.
Absolutely.
There are people who can be extremely positive but give incorrect information, or just bad experience to the situation to make something seem off, when if you do it the right way or come at it from the right way, it can work. And then even the same reverse can be said. So
that's exactly right. I mean, that's such a huge point you brought up. Whether it's real estate or tennis, or any other category, who you're listening to is very important, because, and that's the other thing with social media and with YouTube and many other platforms, anybody could go on there and say things, but it doesn't mean they're an expert. You have to really dig into, well, what have they done? And I've experienced that firsthand in tennis, because I have listened to YouTube videos and other coaches, and what I've found is the sometimes you can just get that one coach or that one teacher, and it's so vital because they're teaching you the right way, and what they're doing is they're teaching you the things that because you could take any category. It could be a baking, it could be basketball, it could be painting, it could be any topic. And there are always people who could give their 2 cents on a topic. But it's so important to get the right one that fits with you, but also the right one who can really bring you to the next level. Because, I can learn how to serve from 20 different instructors, but there could be that one who really teaches me the right way. And then that allows you as a student to take what you've learned and then build off of that. And so it's important to have a student hat, a teacher hat, a coach hat, whatever it is, and then really analyze it from many different standpoints. But that's really critical, what you just said about listening to the right people.
Yep, I agree 100%. Well, I definitely appreciate your time today. I know quite often when we're trying to talk, it takes a bit to get you on the phone. And it's a matter of, texting and communicating, up until the point where you're finally able to get on the phone. I've been by your office, and I know sometimes sit in the conference room waiting while you finish up other business. So I'll let you get to your next meeting today. As always, everybody, please follow us on YouTube. We're also, Hive With Us podcast is available on all platforms, Apple, Spotify, any other platforms that are out there. I'm fairly certain we're on that. We're also available on YouTube. And this will also broadcast as a live show on Facebook sometime within the next week or two. We get a hold of Raj Mody at raj@mody.com. Not many people think to just get their last name as the domain name, so it's a pretty bright idea. I like that. And then, as said, we'll have a domain, a website for you to go to for more information, or also for contacting Raj will be added to the show notes for this episode. So thank you once again, Raj. I appreciate you coming out today and being available.
Thank you for having me, Frank. I had a wonderful time. I know there's so much more information and content and knowledge to share. This is just a introduction, but I really enjoyed it, and thank you. And for anybody listening, I hope they got at least a little bit out of it, but this is just sort of I always say, tip of the iceberg, scratching the surface. And I really hope to share information and knowledge with more people, as I do enjoy it. And I do want to see people as a whole do very well in their personal and in their business life.
Excellent. Definitely. Appreciate your time once again. Hopefully you have a great day, and thank you everybody for tuning in to this episode of the Hive With Us podcast. We'll have the outro following this, and everybody have a great day.
Hey guys, we hope you're enjoying this content. If you have leads that you need to dispo anywhere in the country, please visit hivebc.io, like hivebuyersclub.io, and we'll help you move those deals that you need to get into the marketplace.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Walk to Wealth podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube or any of the podcast directories, please ask you one teeny tiny little favor. If you find any value in this episode or have found value in the episode prior,